I'm very well. Great to have you on today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, and a very good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar with Master Connection Associates with Cindy Novotny and Mary Hanna. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kate Bacon. I'm the Customer Relations and Events Manager for IAC based out of the UK. Usual housekeeping before we start. You will notice that the cameras will be switched off and your mics will go onto mute. So please do use, and I encourage you to use the chat boxes for any questions for Cindy and Mary throughout the session. We are recording the session as always, so I will forward that to you all afterwards. But it is also available along with all our recordings on the IAC YouTube channel and the IAC webinars on demand page on the website. Now, it gives me great pleasure for our first session of the year with Master Connection Associates to welcome Cindy and Mary to talk about the art of presenting virtually. Over to you. Thank you.
All right. Good morning and afternoon and almost going to evening for some of you. I'm thrilled to be with all of you. I've been a part of IAC for many, many years. And we'll get everybody muted there, Mary. I'll unmute. And I've been, and know many of you. Obviously right now I can't see all of you, so I really wish we were all together, but this is exactly what we're talking about. And it's the ability to get comfortable in a very uncomfortable situation. So this whole business of presenting virtually has actually become a way of life for many of us. I do not see it taking away meetings. I do not see it taking away coming together on holidays and weddings, and I don't want to go to another virtual cocktail party. I see it though as a great way to reach out to several clients at different times to be able to engage with them instead of doing a conference call. So although COVID has caused students to have to be doing so much online, hoteliers, suppliers, vendors, partners, having to have these platforms to be able to reach out to their clients instead of going on road shows and going to IAC Connects and all the things that we've done for so many years, there is the good that has come out of it, which means from now on, I shouldn't really just have a call with a client. I should be able to look at them in the face and actually do a great virtual site visit, a great discussion. If they've got people on their board, I should be able to use this platform. So we're going to walk you through, and we have people from the US, from UK, from Sweden, from Denmark, a lot of students on here. So it's important that if there are questions that come up, please just put them in the chat box. Mary is checking that chat box. I answer questions in the moment. So Mary will just stop me wherever I am and I will engage in that conversation, because I don't think waiting until the end, I might have run out of time or I'll miss that really important pivotal point that will make a difference. So as we go forward, I want to use a comment that I always use, which is the power of 1%. I do not think to any of us that are top performers, all of you, whether you're a student or whether you're a VP of sales, you don't have to be better 100% in just one area. You've got to be 1% better in many, many areas. And you've got to know what that 1% is. I mean, a year ago in March, when this all started, March 16th was our first webinar of 350 to this date. I never would have thought in a million years I would sit in the conference room in our office when normally I traveled 50 out of 52 weeks. I love being on the road. So does Mary. But what it did was it forced us to get better at this. We'd done Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams calls and Google Meet calls for years. And we've been doing webinars like this with IAC prior to COVID. So it wasn't like that was that new, but we had to fine tune it. And that's what everyone has to do, because it is a necessity right now. Very, very important. But in the future, I believe it's going to be a huge competitive advantage. We've asked you to come off of camera just because of the amount of people, and it just sometimes drains and it makes the Zoom call go slower. And obviously we have to be muted during a webinar. But when you're having a conference with 4 or 5 people from your own company, or you students are getting together in a chat session or working on a project, I promise you, being off camera does nothing for you. You need to be on camera, looking at each other in the eyes and having some real conversations. Every negotiation we have from this point forward will never be on that Polycom. That poor Polycom is going to be a thing of the past, because everybody will be on their, Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or a Zoom platform like this. The key is when we all get back to traveling, and we will, by the way, that all of us that are clever will sneak in a few of these productive meetings along the way. So it won't matter if I'm sitting at Chicago O'Hare, at London Heathrow, at the United Club. I can go into one of the private little rooms. I can just quickly link up, have a Zoom call with a client, and absolutely in the middle of travel, connect in a much better way. But it won't replace me going on and meeting those clients. So some of the biggest mistakes that happen are technology. Yesterday, we did a session and there was, close to, 60, 70 people in New York. My computer, I've never seen it running so slow. We had to have our IT guy get on immediately afterwards. Apparently there was something running in the background, soaking up. I mean, who knows what it's soaking up, And so the good news is Mary and Kim from our team were both on that call with me. And Mary was able to immediately share her screen. I then jumped back on, shut my computer down, and I did the talking while Mary shared the screen. If you're one-on-one with a client and your technology goes down, you're going to be able to get on a phone, but you set yourself up for that. We're in California. We have rolling blackouts due to energy. Look what happened in Texas just last week with, the huge storms and their energy. So at the beginning of any of these, we always say, should we go down and it's just one-on-one, here's my cell, just give me a call and we'll continue the conversation. Now, here, if I go down or Mary goes down, Kate's on, Mary's on, I'm on, one of us can pick it up, because chances of all three of us having an issue at the same time are probably slim to none. The other thing is poor visuals. Now for you, pictures are worth 1,000 words. We're in training, so we're gonna have more words, less pictures. But those of you that are selling a conference center, a resort, a hotel, critical that you are showing pictures and you're talking to the pictures. Also, not being responsive to questions. So we do a certification program where we're certifying people on virtually presenting. And we've had some really incredible salespeople that we've known over the years, directors of sales and marketing that were top producers. And it took them 3 times to pass the certification. They couldn't do the chat box. They couldn't do the polls. They couldn't speak to the client and then look. That it's so vitally important that if you're doing it to, let's say, a board of directors or to a meeting planning group or to a group of 10 planners or event planners or celebration travel advisors, whatever it is, that you have someone else on your team that can help you pick up and move. You also have to practice this. People think this is just like easy. Oh, you just show up, you start talking. No, it's not that easy, my friends, okay? The ability to do this day in and day out. I mean, yesterday we started at 6 in the morning and we didn't end until like 8 o'clock at night, because we literally had Europe in the morning and we did, Lausanne, EHL, the hotel school in Asia, in Singapore at night. So there's times where Mary or Kim and I are saying, I'm going to go off camera while you're finishing this so I can have a bite of a piece of toast, because this is what it's like. It's not like the good old days where we're in a conference room and then one of us steps out to the coffee break, has a beautiful blueberry muffin, and then steps back in. You have to keep your energy up. You keep engagement going, and you absolutely have got to be connected mentally and physically. So some of the challenges that sellers face, and this again, to all you students on here, I want you to hear me. When you're taking your online courses and you're paying attention to the teachers, look at them. This business of looking down and how you are presented. One of the things that I think about with students, and I want you to remember this, okay? Regardless of what degree you're getting, it's all about the presence. So the baseball cap on backwards, the beanie making you look like you just came off the slopes. I'm here to tell you, depending on if you're with a bunch of your friends, okay. But if you're with people like right now, if we were on camera and there's a lot of executives on this, you need to be like kind of ready to go. I mean, it's only waist up, right? Or as Mary says, be careful you don't get up and bend over and pick up something. That's always important. We know it can be very awkward to do this when you're selling. limited eye contact, no shaking of hand. No, I'm a hugger, I'm a kisser. I mean, in Europe, people must be going crazy, like the kissing and the hugging. I mean, it's like, wow, I miss the days. Lack of feedback. You know, I'm speaking to you now for a solid hour. We are going to have things in the chat box. We've asked you to put questions, but it's not where I'm walking around a room when I'm normally training and engaging. It's when you are looking at the customer though, and there's 4 or 5 people, because that's mostly what you're going to be doing, unless you're speaking to a MPI group, a site, forum, something like that, is that you have to gauge the temperature. Are they getting it? Are they nodding? Are they enjoying it? And then you have to watch that you don't talk over each other, because sometimes if 2 of you are on and you are slow, you might start talking and they don't hear you. So we do have to make sure we focus on that. So in the chat box, if there's been no questions thus far, let's put some questions, and not questions, but statements on what have you found to be your biggest challenges in presenting virtually. I'm going to keep moving. And then as Mary sees some of these pop in, we'll come back to those. So today we are going to talk about how to plan and organize your ideas. Please know that the planning and organizing of these ideas also is applicable to giving a presentation in person. So everything we're going to teach you does relate to when you are in person. We're going to talk about dynamic content, your communication skills, creating that engagement and excitement, and then what to do if you do have some of those technical issues. So let's start with putting it together. You're asked to give a presentation to, let's say, JP Morgan or to Goldman Sachs, and there's going to be 10 people. And you've got your meeting planner that you know, their boss, the VP of communication. You also have some, logistics people, and there's like 10 people, and you invite them to a Zoom call. All right. The more you can use your own platform, the better. And we're going to talk about that later, because then you can control the narrative. But sometimes the client will say, we're going to use our platform. So we'll come back to that in a moment. So as you begin to put your presentation together, just like we would if I'm giving a site visit or I'm going to meet you in person, what are you going to present? You can't just rattle, rattle, rattle. You got to make sure that you had a call prior to understand what they're really looking for, what is important to them. It's not all about COVID these days, people. Okay, it's not about, oh, let me tell you our COVID protocol. All right, they can look at it online, all their safety, all their cleanliness, all your security. Okay, it's more than that. How are we going to have a really engaging event for only 50 people when normally we have 100? How are we going to have an engaging event for 100, but we're only going to do 50 people in a meeting room at a time? Whatever it might be, it's not your agenda, it's their agenda. Always remember that. You have to excite them. I mean, you have to realize, and I don't know, Mary, who was laughing when we first came on, that deep laugh. It was very great laugh, right?
Warren, I think it was Warren.
Warren, okay, great laugh. All right, he was just like, good morning, everybody, with that. It's like he had you at hello, okay? Now, you might be thinking, well, I don't have that laugh and I don't have that voice. Well, that's okay, because you have to bring it. You got to bring it. And then we have to move them to action. Don't do a 15-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute presentation and not move them to action. Yes, Mary.
Yeah, so we had a couple of challenges virtually. So obviously keeping people focused and engaged. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we kind of conclude at the end about how do we get people engaged? And then also, what do we do with some of that information? Sometimes we're great at asking questions, but then we don't do much with that information. Alan had said getting everyone signed in on time, dealing with latecomers. I mean, obviously, if it's the client, you can't tell the client, like, thanks for being late to my meeting. But I think even internally, and Cindy and I and our colleague Kim, we've been doing some webinars for our client, and we do notice that this client is always late. And it's part of their culture. It's part of the organizational culture that they're just late to meetings. And so again, that's something else just to kind of reflect on. If it is internally, there shouldn't be an excuse to be late, or if the person is going to be late, dealing with that, texting or saying you're going to be late. Megan had said, I feed off the energy in the room and it just seems stale online. So I find it hard to keep upbeat and engaging for clients. Warren had said technology creates delays, which can force the overspeak moment. And then Emma had said, getting people on camera, seeing the body language, how to get feedback. And one thing that's very important though, is with getting people on camera, It's perfectly okay. Just as I said, when you all got on, I said, if you want to turn on your camera and say hi, but sometimes people think they have on their camera and don't realize that we can't see them. So it's perfectly okay to say, Cindy, can you turn on your camera, or is your camera on? Because I actually want to know why your camera isn't on. It could be not on because you, let's say, are in a background that might not be appropriate or that you feel appropriate. It might be that you're just a little bit embarrassed or shy in the moment. So it's perfectly okay to ask people, turn on your camera. And then we're going to spend some time talking about how do you get feedback, because just as we just asked some questions here to put in the chat box, this is how you can get some feedback. But it's also okay to directly call on somebody. If you are presenting to 10 people and nobody's speaking up, it's okay to say, you know, Maria, share your thoughts on that. And Danny, what do you think about that? To create that engagement there. And then if it's dead silent, well, we know perhaps that person's not paying attention and where to kind of focus our efforts on. So when we think again about developing our presentation, we're going to talk about first assessing who is our audience.
So what we mean by who is your audience is, right now, I looked at the list. I know there's students here. I know there's people, majority from the US, but I also know we have UK and Sweden and Denmark, and I might have missed a country or two, Australia, whatever we have. So I assess. I know that they're conference centers. I know they're hotels. Many of them I know, okay? But many of them I don't know. So I'm trying to speak to the whole audience and not just to a few. But you, when you're selling, it's a different story. You know that it's, you know, a person with Coca-Cola. Well, I think we have somebody from Coca-Cola on here. It's a person from Coca-Cola, and you're trying to book meetings, okay, from them, with them. So you have to know who they are. What role do they play in the company? Right now, some of the meeting planners are not working. So it's assistants, and they've got, you know, interns doing things. So it's not always the same title, director of corporate meetings and events and that sort of thing. Then what is the goal of what we're going to talk about today? What is the goal? So we're going to talk about your meeting for the fall. We know that it's the annual meeting you've always had in the spring, that you now are going to plan on having it, but you are, just because of, you know, everything going on, we're going to move it until September. And today we're going to talk about how to create that environment for that great meeting. You also, when you're putting that together, want to have a very seamless approach to convey what you want to say. So as you prepare, you want to think about considering your audience, right? Putting yourself in their shoes, what's in it for them, and what are their needs, because same content can be actually given 5, 10, 15 different ways. So as an example, we're doing virtual presenting right now, and we do a whole session on this, a whole class on this. When I'm doing it for technology companies, it's different. When I'm doing it for salespeople that are selling, you know, concierge services, it's different. We're doing one with realtors on how to show homes virtually. It's different, but the content is sometimes the same. So it's important you know that audience and what they're looking for. Now, there's also 2 types of presentations, and forget just virtually. You can use this when you give presentations in person. You are either there to persuade somebody, to get them to book something, sign a contract, say a yes, or just inform. So there are presentations where there's no business to be had, where you're just informing about a destination, you're talking about your protocol, you're talking about, you know, informing them about new food and beverage ideas, things like that, but there's no booking. So very important that there's always a next step. There's always a close call to action, even when you're informing, because you want another call, you want another step. So think about what you want to say, connect what you have to the client's needs. So those of you that have been through our training for many years know that you have a lot of features. We get that, okay? All those features are lovely, but they can look at them online. It's the descriptive adjectives that I'm going to change up a bit to talk about our ballroom or our outside venues differently to you than I did to the customer yesterday. So how do you put this together? Okay, very simple. First and foremost, we use a very organized approach, and we use this for planning any of our presentations. Even when we got on today, we took a few minutes. Kate welcomed you. That was the opening. We had music playing. We were trying to get everybody engaged, saying hello, warm opening. I then started and I set you up for what we're going to talk about today. We now are into the body. This is the main message for you. These are going to be the features, the adjectives, and the benefits of what you are selling. But the benefits must always equal the client's needs. And then at some point, we're going to ask, are there questions? We're going to summarize, and we're going to have a call to action. Okay? Yes, Mary.
Yes, we had a really good question from Maria. She said, how much script do you prepare and how much do you have to improvise?
Okay, so you all aren't going to do very much scripting at all. You are going to have bullets of features, adjectives, and benefits. You have to, I'm Miss Impromptu, let me tell you, because I am put on the spot all the time. When I'm asked to be a speaker at some event, I get questions that have nothing to do with what I actually was speaking on, and I have to be able to roll with it. So you are improvising based on the feedback you're getting from the audience. So you could be right now talking, and Maria is from where, Mary? If you could just tell me, it would help me, and I'll give her a really good specific. Wait, Kate, come off mute.
From the UK.
But what, is she at a conference center?
Yeah, Accenture Venues in London.
Great. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So Maria, great question. So you have your venues. So what you're doing is you know you're going to be talking to Barclays, okay? Client of mine. You're going to talk to Barclays about some of their client service programs they're going to do starting late fall. So you know what they need. They need 5 events, but you got all the needs. Then you put down your features that you're going to present. You change up those adjectives. So I always have in front of me just a little kind of cliff notes of some things I want to make sure I touch on. So I bullet down some adjectives that would be applicable to Barclays. I might have yesterday talked to, Waitrose about a meeting they're going to have, a corporate meeting, and my adjectives were different because they wanted to have security. They wanted things really spaced out. They didn't want any conference dining. They wanted people to pick up lunches to go. So my adjectives will change up. That's what I bullet. I do not script, because we don't want to see you looking down, and we don't want to see you like reading a script. We want you looking. So some people I've got a stand here where I could actually just glance and have a few of my talking points over there. You can actually look at your notes and say, I made a note on this, and then jot down because you're saying it. But you will have to improvise when one of the clients on that call says, I heard that last year you had an issue with something. And you're thinking, wow, thank you very much for asking that in front of 5 other people. And maybe you did have that issue. That's where you use, and we've taught some of you over the years, LEAP, listen, empathize, ask, and produce. That's where you listen. You say, well, thanks for bringing that up. Can I ask if we could maybe talk one-on-one on this after we're done with the entire presentation? Because if it's something bad, I don't want to get into it and start going down that rabbit hole. But yes, you don't want to script. You want to have bullet notes and be ready to improvise. So this is how we structure our message. The opening has to grab attention. I had music going when you came in. We were laughing. Mary was chatting with people. Warren was adding to it. If we didn't have a Warren, we hope we would have had somebody else, because there's always somebody who's going to start getting some things going. Then we did an introduction. Kate introduced us. We're building rapport. Again, we know some of you where you're calling you by name. We were trying to seize your attention. And then I got on and started to say, this is what we're going to be talking about today. And I reviewed that. We then think about how we acknowledge and how we build that rapport every single time we're presenting. And by the way, this is even during a site visit. So use this same structure. Right now we're doing it about virtually. If they walk into my conference center, I literally, great to meet you. So excited now to put a face with a name. I might sit with them in a little corner in the beautiful lobby. I really review what we've talked about before. I build a little rapport and I tell them the agenda. We're first going to look at the meeting space. We're then going to move over and look at some of our outdoor venues, and we'll end in looking at some of the bedrooms and guest rooms. In speech class, and those of all the students that are on here know, if you're taking a communication speech class, regardless of what country you're from, you always learn to give a speech by telling you what I'm going to tell you. You can listen to any politician. And today, I am going to talk to you about boom, boom, boom. That is the opening. Then we go into the body. That is the features, the adjectives, and the benefits that I'm selling. If I'm a speaker, a motivational, inspirational speaker, that's why I say today you're going to walk away with 3 things. Number 1, to figure out how to get paid for something you love doing. Number 2, you're going to look at what could you do as a side hustle to make money during this COVID pandemic. And number 3, how do you really create that balance? So see, I've given them what I'm going to talk about. Now I take each bucket, right? Side hustle, boom, boom, boom. How do you have balance? Boom, boom, boom. How can you get a different type of job during this pandemic? Boom, boom, boom. So regardless of what you're presenting, every bit of it goes in a bucket. So if it's about meeting space, I'm talking about ballrooms, meeting space, conference center, descriptive adjectives. The benefit comes back to meet the need of the client. Convey the benefits. It's so what? So what? Remember, I'm in your ear every single time you say, and this is our conference center. I'm going to say, so what? Well, you'll say, well, they can see it. No, no, no. Who cares? They could have seen it online. Why do they travel all the way to see you? Or why are they on a call like this? I'm going to describe it as it relates to the Barclays meeting, different than it relates to Sotheby's meeting or Waitrose meeting. I'm going to describe it different. So in the opening, we tell you what we're going to tell you. In the body, we tell you. That's the key. Now we're going to think about those fabs for a moment. If you haven't done this already, and this is for virtual or non-virtual, I want you to up your game in your fabs. So all of you, I want you to write down every feature of your property, every feature of your destination. And then I want you to come up with brilliant, bold, bursting adjectives. Describe them, describe them, describe them, so I can visually see them. Now, when you're presenting visually like this, I want to see pictures. And you'll talk to the picture. You're not going to have the words. Those fabs are for yourself as cheat sheets. The benefit is left empty because the benefit has to equal the need. Always remember that. But let's up our game, my friends, on our fabs anyway. There's never been a better time than an 11-month stay-at-home warning for us. Like I've been grounded for 11 months. So if you haven't updated your fabs, let's really get on it. So here's an example. I talked to the client. The client is very concerned because, you know, it's not that they're worried about COVID, but a lot of their attendees maybe have children or they're older and they haven't got the vaccine yet, so they're nervous. So they say, we really want to talk about how you're going to do the high quality food and beverage. We want to look at your security and safety around COVID. How are you going to do these networking sessions when we can't have, you know, hundreds of people together like we used to have to engage? And then some kind of innovative ideas. Those were the client's needs. So now I back up. Now for you, you do not put this fab sheet out there. This is just a training document. Everybody got that? The first feature comes up and it's going to show, I would go with food and beverage. So it's going to show an unbelievable space, and then it's going to show how you're doing individual food packaging. It might show a meeting room set up with one person at each small table with their bottle of water, with their own little nuts, with their own little snacks. And you're going to describe it verbally, you're going to describe it. So let me kind of paint the picture for you. This is a meeting set up for 50 people. It is in a conference room that holds 100. Everybody's at their own table, as you can see here in this picture. What we've done is our food and beverage team has come up with some great creative ways to do their coffee break at their own table, to do their lunch at their own table or their continental breakfast. And then for the networking, what we're going to do is we're going to get them to have small pockets. So we're going to set the entire conference center up with small pockets where 4 or 5 people will get together in like little living room settings. Now, you're showing a picture. You are describing it to them, though, to get that engagement, that visualize, get them to imagine. The key is make sure every bit of those features, adjectives come back to. So that's going to give you that high quality, innovative food and beverage you're looking for. That's going to help with those networking events, keeping it safe at the same time. So if you haven't done this or updated it lately, that's your to-do, because your goal is to sell your story. People remember stories way more than facts. Remember, they can go online. Why do they need me? Features don't, it's like, so what? Just think of me. So what? So what? You want to excite. We're in hospitality, ladies and gentlemen. We are not, and even teaching. I do some college and uni courses where we're working. Like I said, Mary and I have been working with EHL, the hotel school. We're exciting them. We're not like, and so 95% of blah, 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 blah. I mean, I think that to some of my teachers, like I probably would have ended up being like a doctor if I would have liked some of my teachers. I could have kept going, but some of them I was like, oh, I cannot wait to get out of here. So the idea is people don't remember the facts, but they remember stories. Bring these features to life with vibrant adjectives and storytelling. So I'm going to back up for a moment and I'm going to go back to the client that was worried about this. So one of my adjectives is going to be the story. So I'm going to say, you know, we actually had Better Homes and Garden Real Estate have a meeting at our hotel just last month, right in the heart of COVID. We did a few things that I think you'll find interesting. One is here in the US, we have kits for $100. We can send every single person that is coming to the meeting a small take your own COVID test kit. And everybody can have that kit prior. They can get it, you know, prior to getting on the plane. They can get it when they arrive. It's good for that 24-hour period. And it will absolutely ensure that everybody feels very safe coming to the meeting because they use these individual kits. Now, there you go. There's a story. You may not even have known about these kits. Better Homes and Garden Real Estate told you about these kits. We, of course, know about the kits because we've had to do the kits. You know, you have to like do your own like swabbing. I mean, it's like something. You become like a nurse overnight. So the more you can tell these stories, the more you invite them to get excited and inspire them. Remember this, whenever you're trying to persuade anybody to buy anything, go with your idea. If you're a student and you want to sell your idea to a professor, whatever it might be, you have to lead a thorough discovery first. What are they looking for? Get their concerns and needs and wants out. Show the decision maker, the buyer, what is possible, how you can help them. Listen to them. Make that ROI appear in their mind. Make it very clear, like, okay, makes sense. I get it. Enlighten them. Those of you that are in sales right now listening to me, or if you're a general manager or a director of F&B, whatever you might be, front office, I'm here to tell you, customers are expecting you've got good ideas. We can no longer say, well, what are your thoughts? Because the clients are going, I have no thoughts. What are your thoughts? So we have to enlighten them. These are the things we're doing. This is what we're seeing. Using IAT as resources, go to their website and check out all the unbelievable resources that are available on the IAC. So it may not be your solution. It might be somebody else at IAC did it, but you're part of IAC. So you can say, you know, being part of International Association of Conference Centers, IAC, we have the ability to share what our sister hotels and conference centers are doing. Let me tell you what one of them did, is Chaminade, what Chaminade did, and how effective this was, and you're sharing it. So any of those ideas allow you to move and get ready to seriously navigate to asking for a next step, right? Most important. So the close is the call to action. So first thing you want to do is summarize. So we talked about safety. We talked about food and beverage and innovation. We talked about how we can spread everybody out. We talked about our outside venues. Does anybody have any questions? This is where you want questions. Bring them on, bring them on. Now your people will be off camera because it'll be 4 or 5, okay? You're not talking to 50 some people. Always summarize first, do the Q&A, because in Q&A, there might be objections. And if there's objections, you don't want that to be the buzz at the end of the party. So if the last thing they heard was that VP throwing out an objection was not positive, you still need to go back and make sure. So I actually summarize, ask Q&A. I then go back and say, all right, I've answered all the questions. Now what I'd like to do is see if we could set up the date of October 1st through 4th for this event. We've got a couple other people looking at those dates. I want to ensure you get them. And is there any reason we can't move ahead? If you're in sales, you are paid to sell. If you're in sales, you close. I am a closer. If you're a student and you want to get something, ask for it. Nothing comes without asking. Remember, in opening, we tell them what we're going to tell them. In the body, we tell them. And in the close, we tell them what we told them. So those of you that do sell and are using, you know, online, what are some ways, you know, to close your presentations doing this and move your clients to action. Some of you are doing it already and having some very good results. So go ahead, plop them in the chat box, and then Mary will bring them to my attention. All right, so let me continue. Now that we have organized the presentation, now it is time to make sure that our energy and our fears and our ideas are very, very meaningful. The goal is to get to yes by being confident, not aggressive, but confident. You know, I always say, I might not get to a yes, but I promise you I'll get to a maybe. I've been doing that with my husband for years. Oh, I want to get this. No, we're not going to do that. Well, no's not no. I just come around and wait a week, and then I ask a different way, and I ask more questions, and I just get to it. Well, maybe we can think about it. Nothing is dead, dead, dead no. Now, there are some clients that are like, no, we'll never use you. We'll never travel that far. We're not going to do that. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to just, if you don't mind, I'm going to keep in touch with you because things do change. Now, the reason I keep in touch is sometimes the person that was the no leaves, and I'm okay with that because then they move on. I'm like really excited and they leave. So your goal is to create that memory. Make sure they remember you, your property, your destination. They remember 25% of what they hear. 45% of those pictures, remember? Pictures. I'm doing training, so it's not as easy. You have beautiful venues to show, beautiful destinations, beautiful setups, food and beverage shots, great. 45% of what they see. So if you put it all together, they're retaining 65% of what you're saying and what they're seeing. And that is critical. Now, you don't want to overdo your message too much. You don't want to overpower it with lots and lots of stuff. You don't want to have too much. You want to focus on your visuals to hit their message. And as much as you can, every time you're going to put a word down, think, do I have a picture that would show that? Do I have a picture that would show that? And then you got to practice. Okay. So find a buddy and say, all right, even if it's in your own hotel, I'm going to go over to my office. You're going to go down to the conference room. We're going to do a Zoom. We're going to do a virtual site visit. Practice, practice, practice. So let's talk a little bit about making it visual. In training, I mean, the simplest way for us is PowerPoint, but there's a lot of trainings we do where there's no PowerPoint. We're talking, we're engaging, we're role playing, we're working on certain things. Images, video is really, really great, but it can't be the whole presentation. So if you have a video of your property that's like 1 minute, let them know, I'm going to go review today what we're going to talk about. I'm going to kick it off with a video showing you a little bit of a glimpse of who we are and what we do. Music, props, go live, make sure that you truly know how to jump out there. If you can go outside, Kate said the sun is shining in England and the UK right now. If you're at a UK property, take your iPhone out and do it, or your computer, and go live. Walk outside and say, this is the venue, and look at this sunshine, right? So anytime you can do that, it really does help. Now, when you are using PowerPoint though, make sure you're customizing these templates. Limit information to just essentials. Don't use too many slides. You'll notice I don't read every bullet. I'm kind of jumping around, and be prepared to pivot. This goes to Maria's topic. If they're bringing up something that you don't have a deck on, don't worry about it. Don't like, well, I don't actually have a picture on that. Let me look for it. No, I don't have a picture on that. And I'm not going to fuddle around with that. I will talk to it and I will bring it to life, which is very important. Mary, did we get any things about closing before I go into communication?
We have Lena had said, I asked them if I can send them a contract and share the contract on Zoom so I can walk them through it, which is a great best practice.
Great idea.
The key here is whoever it is that you are presenting to, you have to have some sort of call to action. You have to say, this is the next step. When can we talk again? And even again, like Cindy was mentioning in school, whenever you give a presentation, you have to say, what's the next step? Now with all this information, whatever I'm presenting on, what do you want your audience to do with this? So I think that's kind of the key here.
Absolutely. And that is how you communicate. And I love sharing that proposal or contract on the next Zoom call after she sends it. So you are on camera. Okay. If you ever wanted to be a TV star, welcome to COVID. Okay. Look straight into the camera. So you'll see I'm trying to constantly look. Occasionally I'll look over to Mary when she's talking, but I'm looking straight in. you do have to be professionally dressed. And I'm kind of over it, by the way. I'm really over it. So when COVID started, I told my team, no uncertain terms. I said, we dress every day like we're going to work. Okay. So you don't have to wear like high heels and the whole bit. I do wear heels at least 3 times a week so that I'm able, when this is over, to get back into my regular routine. But I will tell you, you got to look the part. You never know who's looking. You never know who's going to watch this recording. They look at you and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm interviewing that person. And look at them. Very important. You know, be conscious of your background. So this is a conference center. You can see I've got Buddha, all my Disney stuff over there because I worked for Disney for many years. I've got some flowers. You got to be conscious of your background, but nobody is going to judge you if a kid walks behind you, if a dog barks, because many people are working from home. So don't get wound up about that. You can even say at the beginning, you know, I am working from home. I'm also homeschooling. It's lovely. And so, you know, he might just pop in. It's okay. Just move on then and don't make such a big deal about it. Make sure you have some good lighting. The ring lights are so cheap, $99 on Amazon. You can just put them up there so that the lighting helps you. And then make sure, like even when I got on, I have a microphone. My microphone wasn't working. We did some sound checks, so I had to come off that. You've got to make sure that you've got a good headset or good sound. So the key is no different than if I'm presenting in person. It's eye contact, it's enunciating, it's pausing. I'm a very fast talker, so sometimes I have to go, whoa, slow it down. I make fun of myself. No jokes, right? You can't tell jokes because jokes could offend someone. So I get people to laugh just because I'm the goofiest person in the world. That's how it works. Now, how do you create that engagement? Be yourself. Just be yourself. Relax, sit back. That's why you have to practice. Make sure everyone that you're talking with is comfortable with the technology. So I am asked, and Mary, we are asked to be on so many random platforms, Blue Jeans, okay? Like Google Meet. I'm not a big fan, but a lot of the corporations use Google Meet. But you know, I'm a tiny little corner down in the bottom. I can barely see myself. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I'm still on, but I have to use it. So we've practiced using it. And now we've learned how to make ourselves even better and how to do it. But Zoom has gotten much better at security, which was the biggest problem at the beginning. The goal when you're just selling is to make it a conversation. That's it. Right now, I'm giving a presentation. We're teaching a webinar, different story. But if I was just talking as Kate when she was on early, we were just having a chat, right? It's like we could have been at, you know, having a chat at a coffee shop. That's what it's about. Now, engagement based on small versus large audiences. You're going to do more small audience, but sometimes you might be asked to speak at your MPI meeting or your site conference or something. And so small, you can ask open-ended questions and get them to answer. You know who to call on. You know, Bob, let me talk to you. Warren, do you have any ideas on that? What's your thoughts on that? Totally fine, because everyone's off camera and you're looking at the 4 to 5 people. Larger audience, we have to do what we're doing here. Chat boxes, polls, you know, encouraging people to monitor and look in. You got to vet the questions. Hence why Mary is looking at the questions, because some could take you off on some rabbit hole. Conduct some focus groups. If someone's going to ask you to do a larger audience like MPI or site, something like that, say absolutely love to talk about meetings and the safety of meetings today. Let me get, you know, could I talk to 2 or 3 of your members to make sure that I'm going to hit on some of the things that are important to them. Now, when you're creating polls, you have to make sure you understand how to do this. So in each platform, it's different. So the goal is a poll is to start a conversation. So if we put a poll in there, it's about soliciting, you know, how many out of everyone listening today, we could have a poll in there that says, how often is a meeting planner calling you back? 10% of the time, 20% of the time, 40%, over 50. So then you put the poll up and they're answering that. So you are gauging what's going on to speak to that. Using chat, if you are all by yourself, then say, you know, because I see it popping up. I'm not looking at them because I'm focused on moving forward, but I'll see the orange blink on the bottom and I can click on that. So if I'm doing it on my own, I just simply move down and I pull up the chat and I see that Lena said, I asked them if I can send a contract. So I see exactly what Lena said. And so that's how you do it smoothly. But you have to be consciously competent about that. That's where most people don't pass our certification at the beginning. The other thing is, if you say, well, if you want to check out the COVID protocol, go to our website, type it in the chat box. so they can then go ahead and go to it. Any videos, anything you want to link them to, any collateral, you'll want to go ahead and put that in the chat box. So when you think about getting comfortable with technology, you think about how does this really look, all right? You got to test this stuff prior. We always come on 15 minutes prior to any session, knowing how to use any of the key functions. Never say, this is my first time, and I don't care if it is. Don't ever say that, all right? Just act like a pro. Just act like a pro. Make sure your platform is updated. Practice, practice, practice. That's the way it goes. How do you handle any of these issues? Well, just like yesterday. Well, just like this morning. For me, my audio, we don't know what was going on. Just, we planned for it. We went on to different things, checked a few things. I unplugged, I replugged, I did, different things. Have a backup plan. Just like I said earlier, if it's just you and 2 other people at the beginning, say, should my internet go down or something happen, my cell is, please call me, or get their cell so you can do a conference call with them on your phone. Just don't give excuses. Oh, my computer's running slow. Yesterday, I gave no excuses to the attendees. I was literally with Mary and him and the organizers, like, what is going on? Okay. I had to go down. I had to shut my computer down. Mary went up. She had it on. So as people were entering, she started talking to them. I was the keynote speaker, but they don't know, it's like the band that comes on first, I guess, then I'll come out of the green room and then I'll hit. Little do they know I was having the biggest meltdown of my life behind the scenes. I mean, Mary and Kim knew because we are chatting back and forth on our iPhones like, OMG, what is going on? And literally, I kept thinking, I'm going to have to go on my phone and do this because we're having a moment. Just don't make excuses. Stay on message, stay on point, and be confident. Exude that confidence. So a better presence is not an easy pivot. It does take practice. Every day we get better and better. You're speaking and verbal and eye contact. You can't wing this. People can tell when you're winging it. They know when you're winging it. They're like, okay, wow. Balance the content with the amount of time you have. So we're always looking at where we are so we can leave a few minutes for Q&A because you only get one take at this. And 90% of the time they're being recorded, right? Now, some of your conference call or your calls with clients are not being recorded, but some are, some are. And by the way, if you're going to record it, because some people like to record it to go back, make sure you say, I'm recording this conference so I can go back and take notes and put it into Delphi, whatever it is. But you want to let them know. They can see the little red recording button and people are pretty comfortable with that. Also, don't forget to close. If your message is on point and it's landing in their mind, you should be able to close and get the business. So quality, no canned presentation, connect with the audience, evoke emotion storytelling, create the memory, get them excited, give them compelling reasons to buy, and you will gain more respect. The more professional you get at this, I am not kidding, and you'll end up converting more business. Now, we know change is not easy. We know that a lot of people, I'm so not about it. I have always been about virtual presentations because I've been about virtual site visits and virtual presentations long before COVID, because not right in 2019, business was so good, nobody would pay for anybody to fly out and look at their property anyway. So we were actually teaching back in 2018 and 2019 how to actually use a selfie stick with your iPhone and or an iPad, have somebody else, how to do a great virtual site visit. We were already doing that. And that is something that is going to be here to stay. And it was already here to stay for many people. In addition, being able to sneak in, as I said, a few of these in between my actual meeting and traveling is going to be great. But just like this general said, if you don't like change, you'll like irrelevance even less. You have to be in the game. Embrace this, have fun with it, and enjoy it. So we've got about 10 minutes, and I really I'll stop here. Well, no, before I stop share, I'm going to show you, because I'm going to take us off so that if everybody does want to come off and actually chat or have questions, I do want to make sure you see take a picture of this, the upcoming IAC webinars, the 4th of March. All Seated is going to present its newest product, Expo, a new way to network, explore, experience, and really have some fun. And there's going to be on the 11th of March, Better Tomorrow, IAC Better Tomorrow. You can take a picture of this if you need it. This is Shelly Marlowe, who manages everything we do with IAC. That's how you would get a hold of us if you need to reach out. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing. And if people want to come off mute, we've got a few minutes. If you want to add some conversation, would love to hear from you. Hi, Nancy. She gave a wave. Any comments, Nancy?
I love you, and I love all this. And you know, it's funny, we've been going through this here with bringing groups back and people wanting a comfort level and understanding the experience, but they need to see it. And you know, thank God for technology, because
exactly,
it's saving our bacon.
Got it. I love it. All right.
Yeah, just a couple other, well, we did get one question. Somebody asked, what is your well-being routine that creates your amazing energy?
Oh, my well-being routine. Well, I'd love to say I got up at 5, did a 10-mile run. That would be Mary. You know, here's the thing, and this is true. And I do walk, Mary, I do walk. I absolutely, genuinely love what I do. I really love travel, not loving this as much as being at Nancy's spot and working with their team. I love travel. I love training. I love our industry. I genuinely do. I mean, what you see is the real McCoy with me, and you can ask Kate or Nancy or Mary, the people that have worked with me for years. I sleep very well. And I didn't learn this till I was older in life. So those of you that are young, some of you students, because I was a student, you know, I would tell people I get 5 hours of sleep a night. It's no problem. I mean, I used to laugh, you know, I used to manage nightclubs, and I could say I could literally sleep in a suit. I could get home at 3 or 4 after morning, closing a nightclub, lay down for a 9 o'clock meeting and just lay there quietly, not mess up anything, freshen up a little bit, and out the door. I know that 6, 7, 8 hours, I go for 7 mostly a night, helps refresh me like you can't imagine. Last night, we're having huge Santa Ana winds in California. They're like blowing like, you know, 80 miles an hour. And so our house alarm went off at 2 a.m. I was like a mental person. You know, I thought someone was breaking in, going to kidnap me, the dogs. I'm like running around. You know, my husband's like, would you calm down? It's just the wind. Okay. But then that caused me not to get that kind of sleep. Okay. I was like, oh, I have a webinar date. But, you know, the idea is, you have to truly know what you need. And so that's, I think, what gives me, that's my wellness tip. Sleep and eat. Oh, thank you, Warren, for that little clap. Anybody else? Lena, did you have anything you want to add?
No, just I'm glad to see everyone on here and thrilled to see Fanshawe students here. My daughter is part of this program, so woo woo.
I love it.
But yeah, so I mean, these are, I've been listening to you, Cindy, for the last 14 years, our first conference in Austin, Texas. And I've learned so much about Master Connections and how to deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly. So it's awesome courses, and encourage all the Fanshawe students to learn from the best of the best.
Thank you. 14 years, Lena. Wow. Yep. Hopefully my energy is still at that level.
Even more crazier than ever, Cindy.
Crazier. Well, I have gotten a lot bolder, let me tell you. There's times Mary's texting me going, yeah, no, I wouldn't do that. Okay. So anybody else have anything to say to the IAC group? Kate will wrap it up at the end, but anybody else Emma, go ahead. Emma, go ahead.
Hi, I'm sure Al's probably going to say the same. I work with Al Morgan. I think some of you know Al. We've got a number of our students on here from the event planning program, and many of them are about to host their first ever virtual event for their capstone events. And so we really appreciate you letting them come on to listen to what you have to say. And one of the things that struck a chord with me was your call to action, because I think sometimes students are really afraid to kind of do the ask. And a lot of them are running events on behalf of local charities. So I'm thrilled that they had this opportunity to hear from you, and thank you.
Absolutely. I first of all, I love our age, but you gotta love the youth, okay? Because to me, they are our future, and I really want to continue to raise them up. And I think the hardest thing when you're in university is that, you know, the experiential work that Emma's talking about that they're doing is so critical. Because what happens is you get out of school, especially in a situation like this, where the hospitality industry, thousands of people have been furloughed, but you get out and it's like, well, what experience do you have? Well, how would I have a lot of experience? Because I just graduated from uni, right? So the idea is the more all of you can attend events like this and be a part of communities like this, you're going to just get stronger and better. So thank you, Emma. All right, anybody else? Anybody else have anything they'd like to say? All right, well then, you know what, Kate, I will turn it over to you to wrap it up. I did put on the slide with the next two events, but anything else you want to add, let's take it from there.
Fabulous. Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Mary, as always. Great to have you back. Super session. Just a note there for some of the students, you may not be aware, but on the IAC website, we have a webinar on demand page. So you can access all the webinars we've run over the last couple of years, no charge. So you can do that in your own time if you've got some spare time in between all that studying. So wishing you all a very pleasant day. Hope to welcome you back on another session soon. As Cindy said, our next session is next week with all seated, so we hope you can join us then. In the meantime, stay well and keep safe, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, ladies. Great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a great rest of your day.
Bye. Bye, Nancy. Bye, Kate. Bye, everyone.